Welcome back, everybody, to another week of Exploring the Unknown, a production by Elements of the Unknown. I am Jason McGray, here with my co-host.
Dominic.
There you go. She did her own intro for once, and we're still here with Mike and Bianca doing another part, as promised. We're going to keep going. We've talked about Project Fear and going to the Madison, and about your experiences leading up to and all of that stuff. But we want to talk about the Madison itself. Now, to give a little bit of context, we spoke about that you did Project Fear there and that you went to MadCon, and we didn't get into depth about your experiences in the Madison. And we are actually, as a group, we're going to the Madison this year.
Yes.
And we're going to MadCon as well.
Yes.
So go ahead and Bianca, tell us a little bit about your experiences at the Madison so that we can hear that.
I think one that stands out to me a lot, I have two experiences, but I'll talk about one for now, was Becca, the owner's girlfriend. She was talking about, it was just privately with just me and Sonia. The guys were up doing B-roll. They were doing their thing, and it was just the three of us, and we were talking about, and I asked her, I said, what do you think is here? And she goes, honestly, I call it the puppeteer. And I said, oh, and she goes, I think it controls everything. That's what I call it. That's what I've called it. She goes, it'll be interesting to see if it comes up. And so she's like, Sonia and I looked at each other and we said, we're not going to tell anyone. This stays between us. And if it comes up tonight, then we know that's just wild if it comes up. So as we're filming, you know that we split up. So Mike, Dakota, Tanner, and I, we go upstairs to the asylum. Alex, Chelsea, and Sonia, they do their roundabout and eventually end up in the basement where they do, I think, the spirit box session. Mm-hmm. And we met back up. And the first thing Sonia says to me is, they're not understanding why I'm freaking out, why this word came through. But what did Becca say is here? What does she call it? And I said, puppeteer. And I have goosebumps just saying it. Alex and Chelsea just go, oh my God, how do you know
exactly,
that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, because she told us. I'm like, that's wild. It came through the spirit box. Like, that's just confirmation for me. That was such a wild experience. For me anyways. What was yours?
Yeah. Okay. Getting the tour from Adam was so cool. Like that building was so incredible to hear the whole story and everything. But then when I saw this mirror room, this freaking room they made, and then I remember sitting in the gear room, and Becca was explaining the whole building before we had even gone in, and she said, "Oh, we have this mirror room and that they just built." I'm like, "Oh my God, you have a psychomantium?" And she stopped talking and looks at me and goes, "You know what that is?"
That's incredible.
And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what it is."
More importantly, you know what it's really called.
Right.
Yeah,
so
right?
It was this big deal. And I'm like, I didn't think it was a big deal. But then we started talking about it, and okay, so they've made, so Jeff Fent and Adam Kimmel have gotten together and made a 6x6
by 6
mirrored room, and I think they've since done the floor probably. It's just
that small?
wild.
I didn't realize it was that small.
Yeah, and
Wow.
they apparently didn't mean to make it 6x6. Yeah, okay, buddy. Pretty gnarly. So you got the whole mirror against mirror, but then you have the whole like the grieving box theory of it all. The devil's toy box thing where you could actually contain certain spirits. There's like all of the theories, you know. I really didn't have many expectations. I just thought it was the coolest thing. The whole point of the show is to be alone and have the fear and all this stuff. When we kept um, following this whole Sarah story and we really brought each other together a lot, and I sort of thought, if I'm watching this episode as a fan, if someone isn't locked in a frickin' basement, I'm gonna be so disappointed. So that's when I said, look, guys, I have to lock myself in that room.
That's cool.
And it was really weird. We watched it the other day, and Dakota's like, okay, well, maybe we'll give you 45 minutes. And I remember it was like 49 exactly. Like, it was right on 45 minutes I was in there.
Yeah.
So 2 points in the recording, I said, I heard talking outside the door. And it was like right outside the door. And if I remember, I think it's on
Really?
the second floor, and where they were in Sarah's room is the third floor, but on the complete other
Opposite. Okay.
side of the building. So I would never have heard
No.
them.
No.
Yeah.
And I told Connor, because I know he was going to edit it, and he did. I said, look, Connor, if you can match up Chelsea's scream, because Chelsea has a very unique, like, dude. She always does the dude. And that's totally what I heard in the hallway
Remember we used to
twice.
play a drinking game?
Dude.
No, it wasn't dude. It was, are you freaking kidding me?
Are you
Drink when
freaking
she says, are you
kidding
freaking
Oh
kidding me?
yeah, back
And then
in,
she stopped saying it, and I was so disappointed.
Because she caught on and
No,
you were getting
man,
way too drunk.
You know
So-
what? I think it's because she's getting desensitized and way
Well,
too brave.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
we,
Okay,
she
fair.
we
is-
looked at it as when we were watching Destination Fear, when she would be like, "No freaking way," and it was like she was substituting the
For
freaking
the-
for the F
you know,
word,
for the
right?
F-bomb. Yeah.
So we're like,
Yeah.
let's play a drinking game every time she substitutes.
And that
like,
was her go-to was, are
Yep.
you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
There was
Straight
that,
up.
or there was
Subbing
one
out the
other
swear
one that was
words,
like,
have
she
a
says
drink.
this.
So remember, she
That's
was a
so-
hockey player.
Oh,
She was a
I didn't know that.
goalie. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
in
I did know that.
college, in
Yep.
university, whatever it is there.
Mhm.
But yeah, she was pretty hardcore. So yeah, she definitely was
Yeah.
a swearer. She's
Yeah.
a rough chick.
Yeah.
So
Man, you don't want to mess with Chelsea. So as big as those guys are, she is also very tall. She's a big girl.
She
Like
is
they
tall.
are big dudes. They are
Well, be
huge.
careful. She's not
But-
big girl. She's
No, that's not what I
she's
meant.
a girl.
I'm a tiny little Scotsman. I'm the tallest guy in my family, and that's not a joke. Like, and I'm 5'7", so that's not very
Yeah.
tall.
you mentioning that you were in the basement or in this room for 45 minutes, 49 minutes.
Sorry.
It triggered a thought process
Mhm.
about fast forward to last December. We're all at the Hinsdale house, and leading up to the Hinsdale house, we're like, somebody's got to go in the basement. You're like, it's me. I'm going in the basement. I'm
Mhm.
doing this solo down there.
Mhm.
And when we got there, I was like, holding you to it, pal. You're going in the basement alone. You're like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
I said that.
done.
I
I'm
have to
going in
do
there.
it.
Yep.
And he went down in the basement, and I locked the door behind you. And I actually forgot about you.
We
I
all
remember-
did.
And then
What?
you
Mike's like,
forgot.
Yeah, we were about to do the seance. So I was like, oh shoot, we got to go get Mike. So you know what my thought process was, is that I kept saying roughly a half an hour. I wonder if I actually left you down there for 45 minutes.
Dude, it honestly could have been, because the weirdest thing was I almost forgot I was in the basement
That's
of the Hinsdale
weird.
house.
How?
Because I expected so much more out of the basement of the most haunted house.
But
in
it
the
was
world.
also really relaxing when we
Right.
were down there.
I
You had
meditated. I had more of a like
Did you?
huge. Well, I don't know if I'm a prolific meditator or anything, but I
Yeah.
do meditate often.
Sure.
And like often, I love clearing my mind and being right in that moment. So I was really just drinking in everything in that basement, and I really just enjoyed the feeling down there. I had those enhanced headphones on,
Oh,
We
yeah.
about that.
so I could
right?
hear everything, but I didn't hear anything, and I didn't feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable in any way. I just felt cold, and it smelled like a dirty old basement.
Yeah.
But I felt comfortable. Like it was a really cool thing to like wait and see. but I
Yeah.
just didn't feel uncomfortable. I felt
I-
like it was all good.
I think we felt the same way when we were down there.
Yeah,
We did. We
sure.
just felt super chill down there.
Yeah.
Nothing really happened. There was
besides
some
the
interaction.
word "sweet" came
Yes,
like
and
like
they
we
described
said,
what
say
we were
something
wearing.
about us, and
Yep.
they said "sweet."
Accurate.
But it
Yeah.
didn't feel dark or anything. It felt.
No,
It felt
really calm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
It
was
did.
weird. Yeah, I did feel
Okay, but
that.
before we move
right?
on to Hinsdale,
Yes.
is there anything else from
Ugh,
Madison that
okay.
you didn't get to talk about that wasn't on the show?
Yes, I
Yes.
didn't
That you want to
finish
talk about?
a
Oh,
little
you
bit
didn't?
more
Okay.
of the
Okay,
mirror
sorry,
room.
I just
I
didn't
know.
want to get sidetracked.
When
We'll
I
go into
he's like,
Hinsdale
oh, the
after.
mirror room, like, yeah, sorry, I have so much more to tell you. So yeah, right.
I'm eating it up, man, because I
Ah,
can't wait to
dude,
go there
that
with you guys.
mirror room.
Yes.
Like, I
Mhm.
really
so
wish I
excited.
could just tell everyone who watched that show what happened in that room because it was
It was
nuts. And I
more than you
really
could describe,
expected him
yeah.
to put a lot more on. I really want to listen to my recording again. So, what I want everyone to know is I have my phone on the chair and I press record on my audio. And if you have an Android, like you physically see the audio go, like an audio file. And once I've replayed it after the fact, the audio that I'm saying does not match up with the physical audio line that is on my phone.
It's weird.
So totally weird.
Yeah.
And like nothing else does that. Like
No.
I've recorded concerts and it's like it's supposed
yeah.
to be. So this was highly unusual. And my brother's kind of, semi-producer, so
Mhm.
I really want him to drag it out and
See
we're gonna
what's
pick it
going on.
apart
Yeah.
one day. But let me really jump into it quickly. So my father-in-law's name came across, and within 5 seconds, my sister-in-law's name. So I don't know if it edits really quick or whatever, but the two names came across super fast,
Mhm.
like back to back.
And just to add to that, my father-in-law is, or my father, your father,
Yeah.
my dad
Your dad.
is alive, but my sister-in-law is deceased. Just for anyone that didn't watch the
Yeah.
show.
Right. So that came across, and I was like, oh my God, like, that's crazy. And it really was. If you watch the episode, listen to the way the spirit box, or sorry, the ovulus says Veronica, because I will bet my life that it says Veronique.
Which is the French
The
pronunciation.
French
yeah.
way of saying
Yeah.
it.
Right?
Yeah.
And it is super weird for that thing to say
Because
that.
it should,
It's
yeah.
funny you say
No.
that because I don't hear Veronica. I
Nope.
hear
Yeah,
Veronique.
Veronique. Like whatever, even if it's an
No, and you
English
even said
pronunciation.
Veronica. You even said
but
Veronica, and I
there-
knew exactly what I meant. I was like, they're
Yes.
French.
Yep.
They're French,
Veronica.
definitely.
And
I
she
think
was. She's
Veronique,
Vero.
yeah.
That's my
Vero, yeah.
sister-in-law. So okay, moving quickly forward, I'm really trying to focus and meditate and try and see what's going to come through. And I wanted to give some silence, but I kept saying, what a scrying room is, or what a psychomedium is. I'm trying to explain it, and every time I'm trying to explain it, this this machine would go off, or the obvious would go off, or something would distract me. And eventually, I'm like, okay, I really need to get through this. So I say, this is so you relax your gaze, and then the ovulus says, observe. And I'm like, exactly, you have to observe.
Mhm.
And then it says, shock. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be shocked by what I observe, right? And then it says, demon. Okay, very clearly comes through demon.
Mm-hmm.
What I really wanted to know
Mm-hmm.
was, did that match up with, let's say, Alex up in Sarah's room at that exact moment saying, are you a demon, or what
Got
are
it.
you, or
Yeah, it
whatever?
was answering.
So I was dying to know, like, is
Mhm.
my questions answering any of their questions? Are anything lining up with
Back
them?
and forth, yeah.
Yeah.
But when it did come through demon, maybe I thought like it was, but I didn't. At the end of the day, now
Everybody panics when they hear that
I
name.
Yeah.
That word,
strongly
yeah.
believe me being in a grieving box. Now that I know what it is,
What's a
I
grieving
feel
box?
like so this
Way back in
psychomantium, this mirror room.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, they were used as these grieving boxes. So really,
Right, 'cause
it
you're
was
at
to
Madison, okay,
bring the
yeah.
death, right? Like to bring the dead ones back or whatever
Okay.
it is, or communicate with
And they would just
someone
sit
you
in
want to
there?
communicate. So it's a
What was-
grieving box. Now,
Hold on. So think about it. Who do you want to communicate the most with?
Okay.
With anyone, it's someone personally that has passed away.
Yes.
You're grieving.
right.
Fair.
You're scrying.
Oh,
grieving,
like-
so it was
right? So it's so
okay.
interesting
Yeah.
that
So they use scrying.
Right.
Interesting.
So
Mhm.
that's
as a
the
way
whole
of
idea behind the
communicating.
psychomantium and
I
the
know, I
psychomantium is
know.
that you're scrying into the mirror,
Yes.
and the grieving room is you're going to scry into something that somebody has recently
So like
passed.
full on.
Which is very
Interesting.
interesting concept
Mhm.
because doing some research for some upcoming investigation that we have coming
Yeah.
up for the Beck House, uh, I've uncovered some research where it says that you shouldn't try to connect with recently deceased. We were talking about this earlier before
Mhm.
dinner. You shouldn't connect with the recently deceased because you could disrupt their transition
That's
to the
crazy. Yeah,
afterlife,
we
Mhm.
were.
and then you're supposed to give them a transition period. I think you said 90 days,
No, there's a 40-day.
40 days.
That's why you
Um,
told me we
But
shouldn't
that's a
go to
tradition.
cemeteries.
Yeah, I don't know about.
Yeah,
I've
but
heard
it's
about it.
basically that you don't connect with a certain period of time of a recent dead because you'll disrupt their afterlife and then get stuck in the spirit realm in between.
Wow.
So you
Yeah.
always connect with seance or
In the in
Ouija,
between, got it. Yeah, yeah.
that you
Mhm.
connect with somebody who's passed for a little further along.
Mhm.
So that's a very interesting thought process going into a grieving box.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Where you're
those names
trying to
coming
connect
up.
because most of the
Mhm.
people that would be trying to connect is somebody who maybe just recently
Right.
lost a loved
So
one.
I don't know if they were designed because of that. Like maybe it was designed out of the need to connect with someone who had just passed, and
Yeah.
that's why it's called a grieving box.
Yeah.
Like it makes a lot of sense.
It does.
But like with them making it, I remember recently, super funny. Adam Kimmel posts this post, sitting on the back porch with Jeff Fant. Jeff Fant looks at him and says, "Let's make a portal to hell." And Adam
That's
goes,
cool.
"Great. The ironic thing is Rona has everything we need." And that's exactly how
What
how
we
it
both
started. So they didn't really know what they were doing. And another person in the community I'll name drop right now is Lauren uh, Hellickson, who's just one of the most incredible people ever, and you guys can look her up. Lauren was super pissed at Jeff for making this. Super pissed. And she made it very known to him that this was a bad idea. You don't know what you're doing, and no. So after my experience, I wanted to assure him, what you did was great because for that to have happened, Carol, Veronica, demon. So let me reiterate,
You weren't
this
done yet. You were
demon,
talking about how you were going over what
I think
the grieving box was.
right? Like
You
what
were in
is
the middle
it?
of that, and then
So
I
then I
asked you what a grieving box was.
realized what this demon mention is not that there's a demon and Sarah
Mhm.
is a demon or whatever. It
Mhm.
was that Vero and my father-in-law have some sort of an attachment negatively or had, however you want to put it. Um, and I really strongly believe that today and all that, and it really made sense to me. And it
Mhm.
was like my story.
Mhm.
Like it shouldn't have to make sense to anyone
No,
else.
I
It
get
was
it.
me in
It
that
was your
box, and I
experience.
get it.
Yeah.
You got
I
the message.
really felt, and I
Yeah.
still do, like they have a demon attached to them.
Mhm.
And that was that opportunity. You sit in that mirror room and you're gonna get the answers if you're open to it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
did. I got those friggin'
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
it's funny you
Yeah.
mentioned Lauren because and the building of this psychomantium room because I do believe Lauren has a session coming up at Madison where she's going to be doing some research with this room. I think I could be wrong. I think she
Mhm.
posted about it.
I'm
So
pretty
she's
sure you're right. Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
made another room in the Madison. Like she's done quite a bit of really cool stuff.
Mhm.
Oh, was it the residence room?
Right, this residence room.
Yeah.
Man, like
It's really
I
cool.
can't reiterate. Like if anyone is on the fence of going there, go. Like that
Yes,
place
please.
is so
It's so
amazing.
cool.
It
We've
is really
fallen in
cool.
love with
Yes.
it, and the people who are involved with it, and just everyone who ever goes there seems to really catch the bug, right?
I hear it happens a lot. I hear a lot of great things, especially from people that go to locations. This happens quite frequently. Somebody will go to Eloise and be like, "This place is so amazing, you have to go. Just if you're thinking about it, just go." Oh, Bill Manor is so cool. You have to go to Bill Manor because it is
Man,
amazing. You got to go. Hinsdale House is so awesome. So many things are
it's
there.
whatever it is.
Everybody connects to a certain location, or if you've been to multiple locations, you'll have certain ones that have been your favorites and stuff like that. And we've even touched on stuff like that, like, hey, I want to go back to Hillview Manor. It's like I have a vendetta with the hallway on the second floor. I
Yeah.
want to go back.
Mhm.
And we want to go back to Hinsdale because we got freaked out and didn't
The
sleep
top
upstairs.
floor.
We have a
Yes,
vendetta
yeah.
with
And
the top
We
now we have a
do.
floor.
vendetta
do.
with the top floor.
We do.
Mhm.
So it's a very good point to say if you're ever interested in going to these places, just go. It's not hard to book
No.
one of these locations. Maybe sometimes it's hard to get a weekend date, but you can arrange to take some time off or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be and go in the middle of the week, get a good price,
Yeah.
and do an overnight and just have the experience. You might not get your Hollywood ghost coming down the hallway with
Right.
I mean,
Ghostbuster
chances are you
equipment.
won't. Yeah.
Well,
But
of course.
I find people get experiences that they weren't expecting.
Mhm.
I 9 times out of 10 will hear, "Oh, I went on this investigation and nothing happened," and I'll go, "Well, hold on a second. Didn't this happen and this happen and this
They're all
happen?"
just little things.
And they're all little things, and they go, "Yeah, but I was expecting this to happen, something
you
else."
can't expect
And
that.
it's like, yeah, but just because you didn't get what you expected doesn't mean you didn't get
Nothing.
experiences,
Right. That's
Doesn't mean nothing
right.
happens.
So
That's
This is
right.
a really good thing to look at, and I feel like this is going to open up of who we are. When you say that of, oh, if you think you know, I would like to go there, go. Well, honestly, Jason, that's the motto of life. If
yes.
you want to do something, if you thought, oh, maybe I really should call my mom, anything, anything. Stop hesitating.
Just do it.
Do
Just
it.
do
That's
it.
what life's about.
I think it's what we
You
do
cannot
now.
be held down by
Yeah.
anything. Like, honestly, and what you just said, you never know what's going to happen. You have expectations, and I guarantee those expectations are not going to be what reality will give you because that's not what life
No,
is.
but it
But
might open up a door too. Like we would have never, I don't think, gone on an investigation had we not taken this opportunity on.
No.
And then it just
Exactly.
was like, I want to do this some
No.
more.
yeah, it changed our life.
It did.
It's not a
But just
a
taking
cheesy
that one
thing.
jump.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of who
Really.
you are, what started you guys like? What started your interest in this? Like whether it was individually before you met, or
Right.
if it happened after you guys met.
Yeah, because it's not something we bonded over up until like 10 years into our
It's so funny.
relationship.
It was like a separate thing. We both had our own things.
Yeah. My thing was growing up, I was always curious about it. I've had experiences growing up. I just would just watch shows and
Mhm.
whatnot doing it too.
Yeah.
Not thinking I could ever be part of a community like this, but um I don't mean to put a damper on it, but me having cancer
Mhm.
really scared me to the point where like it made me think about life and death in a different way. I thought, okay, I do believe that there's something after we die, but what is it?
Mhm.
Like I could potentially die from
You felt like
having
you were
this.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Like, it
scary.
was, it was a
It's
possibility.
Yeah, it was
serious
scary. And
thought
then
Yeah.
out.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
then me
yeah.
not me being cancer free, and then my sister-in-law being diagnosed months later of a terminal cancer, that triggered a fear inside of me even more where I'm like, I want to know more about
Mhm.
the paranormal.
Yeah.
Like everything and anything. And then we just kind of dived into it. I don't know about what you're leading up to was, but like that's where it got the ball rolling. It's like we started watching more shows, doing more
Do you
research.
feel like it also kind of helped you cope? Like it was part of a coping strategy
Yeah.
as well? Yeah.
It
Big
was
time.
almost like
Yeah.
a comfort knowing, deep diving into it and going like, there is
It's
something
not, that's
on
not
the
it.
other side.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You never
Yeah.
know. It's just the question of like no one knows, and that's the benefit
Mhm.
of you don't know. And so like when you
gave you hope.
have
Yeah.
good, we saw this show. Um, what
Don't
was it
get
called?
sidetracked.
This show? No, but it really helps. It was like what happens after death. Basically, it
Oh,
was surviving death.
yes.
Is these people who
I know what you're
like
talking about.
right?
Yeah.
The Netflix
And we did
Mhm.
watch it during those times, and it really made us look at each other and go, "What the
Mhm.
frig are people
Yeah,
There's more
experiencing?"
to this than
And
just
when
life.
you
Yeah.
have sort of a collective, like, okay, all these people have ghost stories.
Yep.
It's the same
No,
thing, right? Like,
exactly.
okay, so yeah, your curiosity gets
Yeah.
piqued, I guess, in
Yeah.
that way, because it is more liable, like it's more plausible or whatever. You're not gonna wish it away when you realize that life is
Yeah.
much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you had Bianca, I know you had some stuff as a kid, right? Like some weird
Yeah, I
stuff
want
as
you
a
to tell
kid.
about your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like when you were younger.
It was a dark time, I'd say that my dad was going through, and as a kid I didn't understand what was going on. I do now as an adult. I can piece it together. I don't know
Just
if it's
demons thing,
Yeah.
in everyone's life. Yeah.
But basically my brother and I, when we were kids, would see each other as shadow figures. Um at nighttime we would just see each other, and we didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand, like, I'd say, like, "Oh, like, Mom, like,
Why?
Max is
Yeah.
standing in my door," but he wouldn't be, and
It
vice
wasn't him.
versa.
Yeah. You
But
were seeing
just
each
little
other.
things like that,
Yeah.
and just experiencing paranormal growing up.
Then you guys played with the Ouija board. and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ouija board that
The
we
Ouija
ended up
board.
giving to you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
We now have it. Yep. Thank
Yep.
you.
That was
Yeah.
a cool
We've
story.
had no
I think
activity
we'll
from
talk
that
about
yet, by the way.
Yet.
We're considering
Uh,
sourcing a planchette.
The plant yeeted itself again.
good
I don't
idea.
know.
Oh yeah, we haven't
Yeah.
told you about that. So you remember the aloe plant that
I don't know if this
had?
one, I don't know if this is a thing though, because now it's happened twice. So is
In
this
the
a thing?
bathroom or in the kitchen?
It was in the living room. Do aloes just yeet themselves out of pots
So
regularly?
the
Because
aloe
it's happened
plant.
twice.
No.
Is that a
What?
thing?
Okay,
We've
so
had aloe plants.
to back
and
up
it
the
doesn't
story,
happen.
we had an aloe plant sitting in the bathroom. It was high up on a shelf where nobody could get at it.
Right.
And the plant, for lack of a better term, yeeted itself out of the pot onto the floor. But it was
Kamikaze.
just the pot. Like it wasn't like the pot tipped over or
It was
anything.
just
The
the plant.
plant looked
Roots
like
and
it's the
all.
plant.
root and all was pulled out of the soil and put on the floor.
No, that's wild.
And
Those are living
so-
creatures.
Right?
Okay.
Well, like,
They can
I'm just
jump.
picturing this aloe being like, I'm out of here.
It's the first plant in history that jumped.
So I put it back together,
It's a
put
very
it in the
yeet is a
soil.
very
I
accurate
took it
description.
out of the
Mhm.
bathroom, and then I put it in the living room
So it could get
on
sunlight.
another shelf so it could get some
Better
sunlight.
sunlight.
Yeah, and give
Yeah.
it some healing. And 2 days ago, we put it in the living room like a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And a couple days ago, I was going to check on the new camera that we purchased, and I looked down, and the aloe plant had come right out of the pot and was sitting on the floor.
We didn't get it on film though because the camera was right beside the aloe plant,
So
so,
the
it wasn't in the
question-
shot.
It's all about the
That's
physics,
wild.
right? Like, has it just weight heavy, top heavy? Like,
It's
is
not.
it feet away from it? Is
It's
it
a
thrown?
Glass,
Is it,
like it almost looks like a little fishbowl.
Yeah, like no, it could. I mean, there's so many things. Like an aloe plant can fall out for sure if it's not rooted, if it's super
But
heavy at the
he
top, if it's all
rerooted
this.
it.
Right, being rerooted,
Where
being
it's
small because I know
where
it's not very
It's
big.
not very big. It's
where
not
it's
heavy.
sitting, it's small, it's not very heavy, and it wouldn't just lean over and fall out. It's some of the leaves are actually leaned over already and laying on the rim, and the center mass is just sitting very flat in
Mhm.
the
So it's
middle.
secure in there.
It
It's
is.
Yeah,
very
it is.
secure.
Yeah.
The center of gravity of a plant. If anyone understands brain movement, center
Oh
of
my
gravity,
God.
as better as I do, then you'll know that a plant does not just jump out of a thing.
No,
It
it
doesn't.
Because the
doesn't.
center of gravity is within the
Yeah.
soil.
Basically, the
That
way
makes no
it's
sense.
sitting
Yeah,
and
I
the
know.
shape it is if it shifted in the soil on its own, it would just lean deeper into the pot. The way the pot is kind of like a
Or
round
like
fish
even
bowl.
like keel over against the side
Okay,
of the pot.
Guys, we need to jump ahead.
It wouldn't
Yeah.
just
We
jump.
need to
No,
jump
not
We
jump
need to
ahead
jump
because
ahead. Skip ahead.
we haven't.
Forget your crazy physics about the thing that I brought up myself, but your house is full of things that we don't want to talk about.
Oh no, we do
So,
want to talk
We
about
will
Right,
later.
that we
But
all
we
wanna talk about.
need to hear about how you started, your
Oh,
childhood. Like
crush.
where did
That's a really good
Is that-
segue into
is that-
my thing.
your childhood
I keep
crush?
thinking about
You had
it.
a
No,
crush
I
on a
say
ghost?
crush instead of
Oh.
instead of crap
Oh.
or shit.
Oh, it's
F
like how
word.
does your childhood
I
crush
always
play
say
into this?
crud in front of my two children.
My childhood crush,
That-
Danica McKellar.
Danica
She got me into ghosts somehow
Childhood
on the Wonder
crush.
Years.
Oh, I thought you were going to
My
talk about
God.
your other crush.
Childhood crush.
We won't talk about.
Kristen Bell was always my childhood crush.
Oh
That was
my
before
god.
Frozen, of course. But anyway, let's move on.
Coming to meet you, Amy.
I don't even know.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, right?
Under my voice, I was like, Amy Bernie.
I hear him whisper that at night.
You're in
Okay,
our
what was
room
I
at
saying?
night?
Yes, I don't want to.
We-
We have
we-
walkie-talkies.
that's where you
We have
go.
walkie-talkies.
We do.
They're
You're
open
right.
channel.
You're right.
Okay,
Yes.
anyway, let's talk about what walkie-talkies.
Let's talk about you.
Okay, all I can think of is like I used to watch Most Haunted with my mom in
Most
the
Haunted,
basement,
yes.
right? You guys remember that old
do.
British
Yes.
Yvette Fielding.
Yvette Fielding,
Her
I'm
screams
here
piss me
in the
off.
museum,
Yeah,
and we've got the
stop
most
screaming.
haunted place in the world. And like, yeah, everything's the most haunted. But she
Yep.
was so great, and like, we watched it recently, and I'm starting to question. Look,
It
wait
is
a minute.
so
These are
wild.
like late 40s people
Yep.
who are freaking out
No.
every time they go, "Oh, I'm serious. For real this time. I'm not joking."
I'm
Like they
really
said it
You
all
were
the time.
joking the time
I'm
before?
serious. No, really. I really got touched this time. For real. Like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
So there was a
the last
big-
Was
time
there the
it
not
the-
real?
yeah.
Yeah, like what are
Yeah.
you talking about? So anyway, no, my history was watching these shows, drinking in all the information I could get, watching, these Project Fear. Project Fear is like so late in the game. We're talking the Ghost Nation, all that stuff. That was like my jam. Never did I investigate
Did you have any
seriously.
experiences though?
Never did I really have any experiences. Truly until later on in life. Like
Mhm.
my big one was fairly recently. Like my grandmother passed away. When was this? My grandmother passed away?
Like 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago, let's say. Okay. She passes away at my parents' house. My mom gives me a book of my grandfather's that he was involved in, and there's like a picture of him. And then that night, I really felt like he was around, and I had this waking dream. Jason and I were talking about this. It was kind of a waking dream of him, and then he smiled at me and melted into me.
Oh, that's
For
cool.
very weird. And I was like awake. Like I swear I was
Yeah.
awake. And then for like 2 weeks, I
Mhm.
was not myself. I was super weird. And I like learned stocks, and I was like super freaking
That's weird.
so strange. And I had a really weird meltdown in the middle of it. Bianca calls me one day and I'm doing dishes. I'll never forget this. And I'm laughing and then I'm freaking crying like I've never
my
bawled.
God,
And I'm
okay.
just hysterical.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What the hell is happening?" I'm like, "I don't know, but I'm seeing every dead person that I've ever known live. I'm doing dishes. I'm awake. I'm on the phone with my wife.
Yeah.
That's certainly the
That's a
Snow
snow
plow.
plow
It's a plow.
outside.
Okay.
There's
There's a
a
storm
big
roaring
snowstorm
outside.
There is?
outside.
Yeah, Mike and I saw
Yeah,
it.
Oh wow.
it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's really
Yeah.
beautiful actually if you look
Earlier.
outside. Okay, sorry, really deep story I was just into. What was it I was getting in at?
You.
Okay, so anyway, where was I? No, really, I'm lost. What did I say?
Your experience.
You're
your
seeing all of
grandpa.
these
Seeing
dead
my
people.
grandfather. Right, I'm doing the dishes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank
Yes.
you. Bring me back, guys.
That's it.
I'm ADD. Let's go. Okay, I'm doing the dishes. I see like my uncle, my best friend's mother, my grandfather, my grandmother, like all live in real time in my face. And it was kind of like
That would have been
you're
distressing.
thinking of them,
Yeah.
but the vivid image that's burned in your brain is as if it's right there,
Yeah.
like on your eyes. It was so weird, and I just like collapsed, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna die because if you see people who are dead, I thought the veil was closing.
Got it.
I'm like, I feel like I'm about to have a heart
I'm
attack.
gonna see the light
That's
end
how
any
I'm
second
about
now.
to die
Any
because
second I'm gonna see
that's
the light.
this is stuff you
Yeah.
hear from people,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my god. And then I realized, like, holy shit, it was just that moment of I really felt like my grandfather was trying to tell me, like, this exists and everyone's going to be around you and energy and all
Yeah.
this shit. It was kind of like just kind of
Yeah,
unlocking the
that's
key.
wild.
Yeah.
And
That's
ever
nuts.
since, I've had this extremely open mind, and all this stuff has just really opened up for us. Meditation and like the power of intuition and like crazy shit since then. But then I went for dinner at my parents' house where my grandmother had passed away. Um, with like just after this whole grandfather incident. Okay. So we go together and I'm like, oh, that's weird. It was like my grandmother's birthday that day that we're about to go to my parents' house. We open the door, go inside, and the smell of my grandmother's house.
The first thing
So
you do is you look at me and you're like,
I'm like, oh my
it
god,
smells like my
do you
grandma's
smell
house.
that? It smells like Grand's house, and she's never been to Grand's house. But that smell is
Yeah.
so incredibly
Can
strong.
trigger memory.
You have no idea.
Yeah, I
That
still remember the
smell.
smell of my grandpa, and I
Yup.
was young, like
Yup.
young.
Everyone on
My
this
grandma, my grandpa,
listening
yeah, on my mom's
knows
side.
that
Yeah.
smell.
Yep.
And
I
It
know what
was
you
so
mean.
incredibly strong.
crazy, I
And
didn't
There's
realize
actually
it
a
that
word
smell
for it. I
until
can't
now.
remember.
yeah.
There
Until
is a
just now.
scientific term for it, where
Mhm.
where smell can trigger like memories and stuff like that.
Somebody
It's a
comment
very
it.
possible
Whoever
thing.
has the power of Google, comment it right now. Because we're live, I'm sure. No, really, it was crazy. And then I said,
That's
does
nuts.
anyone smell it? Like, I went to my mom. I said,
No one
oh my God,
did.
I said, do you have a candle that smells like
Like
Gran's
grandma?
house?
Yeah.
Because holy crap. And
But
then
then it went away.
it went away, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like digging for it.
that smell,
I
yeah.
was panicking.
Mhm.
And then I got one more deep whiff of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like, oh my God, what? Am I losing my mind? And then
Yeah.
I went, and I got it.
Yeah.
And then when I let it out, my brain just gave me that like relief of like, oh.
Interesting.
And seriously, I don't know if we've talked about it, but like, because I don't know, I don't want to get too into it. But I really feel like it was that soul connection. I brought back my grandfather to where my grandmother passed,
Yeah.
and it was sort of that helpful
Yeah, that
guidance.
makes sense.
And what he gave to me was sort of this open-minded ability to think differently or
Mhm.
whatever it
Yeah.
was.
But I feel like that moment, from that moment where you and I had different experiences, that moment for you is when we really started
Yeah.
deep diving into
It
stuff.
just it made me realize that it wasn't a question anymore.
Yeah.
That was my 100%.
It was where we wanted to get
Yep,
answers now.
100%.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
like,
I can see
oh
that.
my gosh, like we've had so many experiences since in the same house, like my buddy passing away, feeling like he was there. I mean, that's a whole other experience. That was a crazy thing
Yeah.
that happened, but that was the main
Yeah.
that got me
Yeah.
in. Like, that's
Yeah.
it. Okay, something's
was-
bigger
yeah.
than, you know?
That's
Yeah,
cool.
that was it.
That's neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And taking all that experience, what we will do is we will come back next week and talk more about
How can you
the
do this to
adventures.
people?
I'll talk about Hinsdale.
You started to sound like
You.
Justin. Don't cut me off yet.
I'm gonna be listening to this going, no, no,
But I didn't say that we
Yeah.
can do.
We will come back. You will hear us next week.
Okay.
Talk more. I promise we're going to talk more about Hinsdale. We touched on it a bit.
Mhm.
We're going to talk some more and tell you
Deep
about
dive.
Hinsdale
Woo.
and do some more deep diving. And I will tell the story that he just talked about, dream and memory recall that happened to me today, the day we're recording.
Crazy.
Dom hasn't even heard this story yet. So
I was like,
I-
what? Dream.
Yes.
we will be back. Until then, stay
Love
spooky.
you.
Bye.
Keep exploring.
Bye.